Hello, I'm Anna Amelia and I'm from North East Animal Rights, and I'm delighted to welcome along today Johanna Grace from Animal Rebellion. She works in the social media team. So thank you very much for joining us today as part of our Saturday Spotlight interviews.
Thank you, Anna. I'm really chuffed to be here.
Thank you. I know I met you back in September when we did the Stop the Distribution of Dairy campaign, and it was absolutely a life-changing experience for both of us. So I wanted to ask you first of all about your vegan journey. So could you tell me about your journey?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. September were great. Definitely one of my highlights of my vegan journey. But yeah, we'll get to that. So I went vegan just over 5 years ago. Um, and yeah, around the time, like I had a twin sister who just turned vegan. A lot of my friends had gone vegan like in the years before. So I was in quite a lucky position, really, where I was like surrounded by vegans that were really close to me, and I just started to make the connections and understand why they'd made that choice. And then yeah, in the end I came to it for myself, but I wasn't the most active of vegans to start off with, so it was more like a dietary thing. I wasn't taking any direct action or doing activism until it got to 2020 when we went into the lockdown. And at the time I was a student, like working from home, like in lockdown basically, and I had a lot of time to sit at home with my thoughts and think and do some like research and looking into what is going on in the world. And that's when, yeah, I started to learn about the climate crisis, the biodiversity crisis, and obviously the animal crisis and how it's all like interconnected. And then came along Animal Rebellion. So I found out about Animal Rebellion through Vegan Camp Out. And in 2020, I just decided this seems like a really great movement that I want to be a part of. So I was just there in Sheffield. I packed a bag with a tent and a few changes of clothes. I just got on a train to London. And my first kind of like activism was camping in Brockwell Park with Animal Rebellion for a week during one of the big Extinction Rebellion rebellions, and going into central London, watching people get arrested for actions, which the first time I saw that, I was just like, wow, like, what is going on? Like, why are these people getting arrested? And it took me a while to sort of like understand, like, I guess the thinking behind that. But when I did, I had like so much admiration for all the people in Animal Rebellion. And I just wanted to do everything that I could to be involved. So I got onboarded that year into the messaging team, because I'm a linguist by trade. I was at university for 8 years doing an undergraduate in linguistics and then a PhD. So I thought I'd be able to use all this knowledge and expertise that I've got in language to contribute towards campaign messaging and help out in that way and use my niche kind of thing. So yeah, I did that for a while, and then yeah, ever since I've just been going along to actions, mostly in like a supportive role, because it took me a long time to get on board with the idea of being arrested myself. So yeah, just spent a lot of time going to actions and looking after people that were in arrestable positions and just doing what I could really to support Animal Rebellion.
There's a couple of things there. I've just sort of given me, when you talked about seeing Animal Rebellion and Vegan Camp Out, and I was exactly the same. Obviously, I knew Animal Rebellion, and we had a very very small, pretty inactive branch in our area. But when I saw them at Vegan Camp Out, I thought, I knew there was a big campaign coming, and I really wanted to get involved. So we were probably there signing up at the same time and not realising. And I know that obviously this year when we go to Vegan Camp Out, there's going to be a lot of us meeting up together, so it's kind of like almost like a reunion, even though we didn't know each other then. But
Definitely.
when I first met you, and Lewis as well, your lovely partner. My impression was that you're both very very kind. You're probably two of the kindest people that I know, and it was just an absolute privilege to work with you. But it's kind of like, I know that you said you were sort of very concerned about the rest part of it, so kind of fast forward a little bit, and then we see you kind of getting arrested in one of the sit-ins and getting carried out. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So when we first met, I was going into schools like yourself, And yeah, my day job, I guess, was higher education outreach. So I was going in schools around Sheffield and talking in parts of the city where there's like socioeconomic deprivation and young people from working class backgrounds who have never had any exposure to higher education and don't understand the benefits. So I was really passionate about going in and getting these young people to increase their prospects and stuff like that. But then, so I did that job for a year, and like basically throughout it, I just started to get more and more concerned that I was going into these schools, talking to these young people and saying, oh yeah, like you should be aiming for good things in the future, knowing full well that I'd done all the research that I have and the government are failing them and we're like facing societal collapse within their lifetime if like change doesn't come fast. So then yeah, I just started to kind of lean more towards I want to be taking like direct action because I think that I'm in a position that I could do it. I know a lot of people aren't. So basically, yeah, I sort of in my head I was sort of coming to this decision that like at some point soon I was going to go to an action and I was going to like take the plunge. I was also really inspired by all the people that we met in September that were going out and getting arrested at the distribution centres. I thought they were all brilliant. So then me and Lewis went to a sit-in in December in Manchester, a restaurant called Manor where people spend £195 a head to get like a Michelin star meal cooked by this guy called Simon Martin, who's like he wants to be like the Norse Gordon Ramsay kind of like vibe. Like we went into his restaurant, basically just occupied all the tables with the message that we're in a cost of living crisis. There's 2 million families in the UK that are relying on food banks, and people are coming to places like this and spending just ludicrous amounts of money on animal products. He has like a dish on his menu called the tail of the retired dairy cow. He's beheaded live eels in his restaurant. His menu says on it, "We will not cater for vegans," like very anti-vegan sort of like atmosphere. So yeah, it just seemed like a good target, and I thought it was like really important to go in there and make that stand. And it was around the same time that others were happening in London at Salt Bay's restaurant, Gordon Ramsay's restaurant. Yeah, so we kind of went in. No one had been arrested for a sit-in before. Think we got a bit unlucky there. We thought, oh yeah, we're in Manchester, like this thing doesn't like happen that much. Like, what will the Greater Manchester Police do? Probably not much. But yeah, we went in and sat, and me and Lou just kind of like sat across the table and like looked at each other, and we were like, yeah, like if we don't get up now, like we're gonna get arrested for this action. And we kind of like discussed like how that felt and were we prepared to stay. We both decided like, yeah, like this is the right thing to do. Like we've got a point here that needs to be made, and if sitting here and being arrested is what it's going to take for this point to get out there, then we're both prepared to do it. And we just stayed seated and then got carried out like a couple of hours later, basically, when they turned up with like riot vans, about between 30 and 40 police officers like stormed the restaurant to arrest 14 of us. Like it was a bit very disproportionate when you think like it's just 14 people sat on the table holding up a menu being peaceful. Like it was an interesting night.
We've seen, I know that obviously there's been issues with the policing bill and trying to change the law in terms of what the police can do. But we know that that the police already have sufficient powers to arrest people who are causing major problems. And you're just describing you're sitting in a restaurant and kind of it's not really affecting many people. It's affecting the owner of the restaurant and the people who are inside the restaurant. So, like you said, it is pretty disproportionate. It's a bit like I supported an animal justice project event down in London, and there was 2 climbers and there was half a dozen people on the ground, and I was one of the ground crew. And they sent 4 riot vans, 2 ambulances. They had 2 riot vans, 4 squad cars, and they also had a police helicopter as well. And you kind of think, really, is that really the best use of police time? When people are complaining about us doing these actions, but actually you look at the response and it really, really is absolutely ridiculous. But in terms of what Animal Rebellion are hoping to achieve, people are sort of saying, you know, what did you actually achieve? But obviously, presumably, the main issue is to get into the press, to get into the media, to get the conversation going. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
we had our biggest press day of 2023. Sorry, 2022,
Too.
after that sitting. So that was quite nice. Like, because yeah, when you're being arrested and you're in there, you just kind of sat there hoping, like, I
Yeah.
really hope we've like made some of an impact
Yeah.
on the outside. And like
Yeah.
when I came out, two of my good friends, B and Wasp, came to collect me from the
Yeah.
station, and like one of the first things I was saying was like, is there any like kind of
Yeah.
like stuff out there about this?
Yeah.
And then they like showed me a picture on the phones of me and Lou on ITV News, just like sat holding hands in the restaurant. And
Yeah.
then like they drove me to the station that Lou was at, because we were at different
Yeah.
police stations. And then when he came out, I was there. I was like, look, like
Yeah.
there's this picture of us like in the news. Like, how crazy
Yeah.
is that? But
Yeah.
yeah, we definitely got some good press, because on the same night, the London group went to Salt Bay's restaurant and got carried out. So then like it went almost like global, that Animal Rebellion had been to Salt Bay's
Yeah.
restaurant. And by the way, they went to Manchester as well, and
Yeah.
we were kind of like tagged on to the end. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was a good
And
story.
I think it is important for people to realise that that Animal Rebellion and other groups who are doing direct actions like this, first of all, you know, it's non-violent direct action. So if anything, it's causing an inconvenience, but it's not causing. There's no violence. There's no sort of you know, damage to people. I mean, yeah, obviously property occasionally gets damaged, but it's non-violent direct action. Um, but also, you know, it's not just about the only thing they've done is this direct action. They've done lots of things behind the scenes. We know with the September action that there was lots of conversations going on with the farming community as well. When people say, you know, there's other ways of getting your message across. The reality is we've already tried these and we are continuing to try these. This is just a public facing action. So there's lots of things going on as well. And I think that's really, really important, because we do get a lot of criticism, people saying, you know, every time we do an action or we see an action being done by a group, everybody says there's other ways to get your message across. And I don't think people realise the amount of work which goes on behind the scene. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. We have like campaigns that run alongside the big dramatic actions, like
Yeah.
plant-based councils, where there's volunteers from Animal Rebellion in different parts of the country that are writing to MPs to encourage local councils to transition to plant-based catering. We have like plant-based universities campaign, where if you're a student, you can get involved in lobbying for your university to start being consistent with the research that they're putting out about the climate crisis, and meet climate targets by serving only plant-based food on campuses. So there's things like this that basically go on like behind the scenes. There's an RSPCA campaign that people are working on to try and stop the RSPCA from basically legitimizing animals being slaughtered for food in a climate crisis, and just causing so much suffering. So yeah, like there's just so many things that people are doing that's not as public facing a lot of the time, unless we have big wins. Like if a council goes plant-based, it's news. But yeah, every day there's people working on this stuff. So yeah, we do cover like all approaches.
Yeah. So, I mean, another criticism as well about, you know, actions like this is that they're carried out by middle class students who don't work. So, what would your response be to that?
I'd say that like knowing the people that come along and take these actions is just a huge like mixed bag of people
Yeah.
from all different walks of life, who
Yeah.
all just have like a passion for animal justice and climate justice. And it's just one of the most beautiful things, where you just walk into a house full of people, and like there's almost this part of us where we're socialized to kind of like judge other people, and you kind of see people and you think, oh yeah, like if I like pass them on the street, we'd probably never be friends. But like you sit and you get talking to them on an action or in like a safe house or whatever, and you just become like the best of friends. And there's people of all different classes from all different walks of lives, and like I myself and like a few of my other friends in Animal Rebellion from like a very working class part of Sheffield. Like, you know, my family don't have money. I was a student for 8 years, so I guess the right on that point. But yeah, definitely don't come from like money or anything like this. And I was like working like the whole time I was taking part in these actions. I was take like all of my annual leave when I was working at the university, went on actions. Like I didn't have a holiday. Like I've not had like a proper like holiday in like years because like I'm either working or doing like activism. And people are so quick to like jump to that because they see it in the press and they think like just these arguments that people read in the Sun and the Daily Mail, and they just see it as like the truth, and it's just so far from it when you like come into these movements and you talk to people and you like understand why they're there.
Yeah, I know when I came to the Safe House in September, that I was the amount of people from different backgrounds, different areas, different experiences, different ages, all sorts of different things. And I mean, one of my funny things you sort of remember, but one of my highlights was actually me and you sort of looking at watching the thunderstorm from the window, watching all the rain coming down, knowing that all the activists were going to be coming back in the pouring rain, but watching the lightning in this absolutely surreal circumstance. But yeah, it was a really, really good experience. It was absolutely life changing, and I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. Really out of my comfort zone, but it was really, really good. So, so do you feel as if you've grown as a person, as an activist, since you became involved with activism?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like just a lot more confident in myself. Like I feel like I've got more self-esteem. I feel like I can like stick up for my opinions and my views a lot more than I used to be able to. And that's just from like throwing myself into situations where it might have seemed really like uncomfortable at first to just like go and stay on a camp full of activists when I've like never done any activism before. But yeah, I think it's definitely like built my confidence, built my courage as well. Like if someone would have told me like in September 2020 when I first turned up at Brockwell Park that, oh yeah, like you're gonna get arrested in like the winter of 2022, I just would not have like believed it. And I never thought I would have been able to cope with like a night in a police cell. That was just such like a huge fear of mine, like the claustrophobia and the feeling of being trapped and the having to sacrifice your own liberties and just being in there and knowing that you can't leave. And I won't pretend that that wasn't like hugely difficult, but I like went through that process and I knew that like it was the right thing for me to do. And like coming out of the back of it, I just feel so like empowered about making that decision to take that step. And yeah, I feel really proud of doing that and stepping up. And yeah, like I just would never have thought that I would have come on this journey like in the space of this 2-3 years and got to where I am now.
I think probably the activists now, I think maybe in 10, 20 years time, they'll be looked back on in the same way that other activists, you know, and other social justice movements are looked at as well. Yeah, okay, people think they're a pain and, you know, agitators at the moment, but actually people will realize that they were right all along. You know, and then look back and then realize that what people are doing now is, you know, really, really brave actions and quite heroic as well. So do you want to introduce your dog? I can see your dog jumping around there in the back. Do you want to introduce?
This is Hendo. Come here. Hello.
Just seems
This
a
is my
shame.
little sister's dog. Come here. I'm gonna have to.
Hello. Aren't you beautiful? It just seems a
He's
shame
called
that we're not going to say
Hendo
hello.
after Henderson's relish.
Oh,
Because everyone in Sheffield's just mad for Henderson's relish.
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever tried it.
People say that they'll use it as like a vegan alternative to Worcester
Oh,
sauce.
right, yeah.
But yeah, it's like made in Sheffield, and
Yeah.
everybody has it on like the pie and mash and the Sunday roast. It's great.
I think probably ours up here is maybe stotty cakes and peas pudding. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
that's what our sort of like delicacies up here. So
Oh.
we're gonna end now. So I'm just gonna ask what's next for you then? What you're up to now?
Yeah, so basically in December I was still studying and I resigned
Yeah.
from my PhD, which I was doing in linguistics, because I got close to the end and I kind of just got to the realization that I've been doing this project for 4 years, and I started off like so enthusiastic about linguistic variation and dialects, and it was all about Sheffield and I like loved it. But then the stuff that I was finding out about the climate crisis and the animal crisis just like mattered so much more. Like and I realized that I was like sat here at my desk like writing things about vowels and about linguistic variation, and like looking on my phone and things were popping up on social media of like members of Just Stop Oil climbing the gantries on the M25 and getting held on remand in prison for like a first arrest and no previous convictions and all this. And I just couldn't believe how ludicrous it was. And I was thinking, why am I sat here like at my laptop like writing chapters of my thesis about vowels when there's like young people are out there, people of all ages, just going and like sacrificing so much, and like I feel like I should be doing more. So I went and spoke to my supervisor and kind of thanked them for all the support for the 4 years that I had, and I learned so much. Like I did a lot of like just training on how to talk about like academic complex things in like ways that like the layperson can understand, and a lot of writing and a lot of just so many transferable skills and speaking at conferences, stuff like that, that I've like developed that I can use now like through my activism. But spending the last like 6 months to a year or whatever it would have been like just sitting at my computer and writing my thesis just didn't seem like it was important for me like to finish. So I quit, and now I like work like for full time in Animal Rebellion, doing in like the media messaging team. So coordinating social media, making sure we've got content to go out when actions are happening, making sure that we've got people that can go and record the content and send it through so that we've got live footage going up. And I'm like getting back involved with messaging again, like I was doing when I first joined Animal Rebellion, thinking about how we frame like the upcoming campaigns, because we're transitioning to like a message that's heavier weighted in like compassion for animals and love for animals. We're a nation of animal lovers. Why are we treating animals the way that we do? Like it's a problem for them, it's a problem for the environment, like it's not good. Whereas before we were a lot more heavily leaning towards like just the environmental stuff. So I'm really like excited about that and working on that with like some other members of the team. So going down to London quite a bit in the next few weeks, and hopefully like when the campaign kicks off, getting involved in some more actions and seeing where that lands me.
It sounds as if you just like totally full on, and I mean it's, you know, I'm really, really proud to be able to call you a friend. It's just an absolute privilege to know people like you. I mean, and to know that there's people out there like you. I mean, I know there's it's not just you, it's not just Lewis, there's other people as well. But it's great to know that there's so many people who are prepared to put the money where their mouth is, and you know, and put their, you know, like sacrifice their liberty, sacrifice their, you know, their sort of like careers, and you know, and the mental health to some degree as well, because it's very, very stressful, very you know, time consuming, and you know, and it does take a lot out of you to do these. So so anyway, I'm going to end now. I'm running out of time. So thank you very much, Johanna. It's really, really been an absolute pleasure to talk to you again today, and then hopefully I'll see you both of you very, very soon. So I'm going to sign off. I want to sign off and say thank you very much to Hendo as well for his little background piece. So this is Anna Amelia from Northeast Animal Rights signing off now and saying thank you very much for joining us today. Goodbye.
Thank you. See you later.